Are we recording?
We are now.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't recording our tax conversation, but
Hey, everybody, it's Aram
and Timmy's been here.
Welcome back to another episode of B&B Banter Bros Go to the Movies. This is episode 5?
Yes.
5, yeah.
Yep. And if you haven't seen our other episodes, we did John Hughes. We talked about John Hughes. We had a part 1 and part 2 for episode 3 and 4, and check it out.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it was a good conversation.
It was a fun conversation, too.
It was. Oddly enough, we found out how much we actually like John Hughes.
Yeah. Or like how much we actually knew about John Hughes, and I think even we didn't realize everything we.
That's
we
true as
knew.
well. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So it was a good episode.
Yeah, most definitely.
I enjoyed it. So first off, Aram, how are you?
I'm all right.
Other than learning about you owe the government $5,000 on your taxes.
Oof, I gotta go back and check that because your boy can't afford owing the government $5,000.
Nobody can. I mean, at least nobody we know.
I did my taxes last night and I saw that number at the end and I almost shit myself.
Oh, fuck that noise. I would not.
Well, it was like, and that was just federal.
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
I owed another like 1,800 in state.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I get pretty lucky, and my mom does my taxes.
We're
basically because she still has all the information prior.
Yeah.
Like, I hold on to my files and stuff, but I don't know. It was one of those things where she started doing my taxes, and because she was doing hers, and she just kept doing them each year. Like,
for sure.
I give her a little bit of money and for doing them. So
that's on my plate.
Yeah.
I gotta go fix that.
Yeah, you fix that. That's crazy. Oh, man. That's a lot.
For a man who only claims himself and one dependent, like, I shouldn't know that much money.
Not at all. Unless you...
Like I say, I think it was the fact that I let TurboTax, like, import all my information from the year before, and somehow they, like, said, oh, you made this much money, you know, as opposed to what you actually made. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you figure that shit out. Tonight, what's on the docket today? Or tonight?
Today. We're going to talk about Martin Short tonight. So
I'm trying to drink my problems away.
Right. I can't drink $5,000 away. I mean, I could, but...
I mean... Hit up that club, player. VIP section, that's gone right there. Just be like, oh yeah, I'll pay for VIP. Well, that's gonna be about $1,500. I'll get a top shelf. Well, that's the rest of it. That's it.
Right, it's one glass.
One glass.
I nurse that shit all night. Fuck.
That's fucking.
Oh my god, I'm so broke.
Anyway,
yeah.
What's on the docket for?
So we're talking about Martin Short tonight.
Tonight,
we're just whatever.
Just roll it. Keep going.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about Martin Short tonight because we both love Martin Short, and he just happened to be we had a list set up and we just kind of picked at random, and Martin Short's who we fell on.
Yep.
So,
and it just happened to be great because, well, we love Martin Short.
Yeah,
like you said.
What's not to love about Martin Short?
Martin Short is one of those guys where we'll get into it a little bit more, but he's one of those guys that he's never really stood out into like what you would call celebrity status of like stardom. Like he's not. It's not that he's not considered an A-list star. Maybe it's within the right people.
He is what would be. He's an A-list support actor. Like, he's always in great in movies, but a lot of it is based on who he's with. Like, I read some of the Rotten Tomato scores for some of the other movies he's done. Like, there's a movie he did with Danny Glover called Pure Luck.
Yep.
Which I actually remember and I actually liked the movie. Yeah. It's not a bad movie, but it got like under 20% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's got like a 17%. Wow. On Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, it was. I know
it did flop in general.
Yeah, it's not a well-received movie, and that's not in Martin Short's fault, because Martin Short is funny in the movie.
That's something. So that's the biggest thing that Martin Short had an issue with, was that he's likable. Everybody loves the guy. Like, everybody, like directors, writers.
He's a sweetheart. Like,
the business loves Martin Short. The biggest problem is no one talks about him.
Yeah.
Like, he had only a couple lead roles.
Yeah.
And one of them was like, it was Captain Ron. That was one of his lead roles. And
Pure Luck, I think, is the other one.
To be honest, well, no, Inner Space was another one that was technically his lead role. But then again, who he's working with, he kind of gets brushed aside.
Yeah.
Because in Inner Space, you had
Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan.
The show.
Yep.
And then you had
Captain Ron,
Captain
Kurt
Ron,
Russell,
which is Kurt Russell, who stole the show. So it's like...
So like I say, he's always one of those guys, it's a matter of who he's playing off of that he really stands out. Like I say, he had, like, Pure Luck. Danny Glover is a great actor. They had no chemistry.
Yeah, it was very stale.
Yeah, it was like Danny Glover, while acting the movie, seemed bothered that he was there.
I agree. Well, he also kept yelling at him all the time, too.
Yeah.
Like, in the film, like, he kept yelling at him, like, oh, just let me do my job. I'm the detective, kind of thing.
Right.
Like,
he was almost to some degree channeling Murtaugh from Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, that's what I
But he
thought.
didn't have Mel Gibson to act off of. He had Martin Short, and it just doesn't work.
He didn't have somebody who had the I guess, tough skin street persona to bounce off and go, well, I'm rubber and you're glue.
Exactly.
And I'm going to do what the fuck I want anyway.
You got Martin Short, who looks like someone's accountant or a science teacher, being yelled at by Danny Glover, as opposed to Mel Gibson.
Wasn't he an accountant in that movie, or wasn't he something of that nature?
I don't remember.
I thought he was. I thought he was an accountant.
He might be for
in that
all I
movie.
remember. He's He's a mundane person.
Yeah. He's
only brought in because of his severe bad luck.
Yeah, yeah. It's still a decent movie, and you should definitely watch it. And I read his book, or I should say, I listened to his book by using Audible.
We're not sponsored by them. You don't have to mention them.
But maybe somebody out there
hit us up.
So Martin Short wrote a book quite a few years ago. I mean, not terribly long ago, but probably 5 years ago.
Like Martin Short, it went under the radar.
Right, it really did. If I wasn't such a lover and I found it, I probably would have never known he wrote a book. But it's good. It's really good. I enjoy it. And I listened to the audiobook, and he reads his own books. I love that. Anybody who knows me loves memoirs when the memoir person who's writing the book reads their own books. It's just fantastic. It adds so much more. And he did not disappoint. In fact, I think he excelled more than anybody else other than Corey Taylor.
Well, it's like we said, he's got the gravitas to his voice and the way he delivers because of his time working in theater and working, in movies. Like, he's got that ability.
In the business, he's considered to be whimsical.
Yep.
And he is whimsical.
He is, to my understanding or my observation, he seems to be a very down-tuned sort of version of Robin Williams.
Oh my goodness!
Like where Robin Williams is like so off kilter.
He's unpredictable. Robin Williams is unpredictable.
Martin Short is just sort of like a very toned down version where like he's just sort of funny most of the time, but not really like over the top.
See, it's funny you mentioned that. So dive into the book real quick again. So the book it's Martin Short, and it's called "I Must Say: My Life as a Humble Comedy Legend." Yeah. Great title, first of all, because there's nothing humble about it when you say you're a legend. Which is the joke.
Right.
So he talks about Robin Williams in that. Yeah. So the book is really good, and it basically
Did they ever work together?
Yeah. I'm
trying to think of what they might have done together.
So I don't remember in detail, but I don't think they worked together in a movie by any means. I think what it was is that either it was Saturday Night Live that they had worked, or they had met at a party. Which at the time, Martin Short, I mean, it was the 70s. Everybody fucking was going to parties and shit like that, and
that's where all the blow was.
Yeah. And Robin Williams was no exception. But one of the times, they came close. Yeah. And Martin Short specifically talks about how Robin was one of those guys. Like he was like unstoppable. He was one of those guys that the characters that he could do and switch on and off in such rapid beats and pace, and be able to do that through the entire fucking thing. The energy he had was just incredible. Nobody in the industry had that.
Robin Williams was a force of nature.
He was, and that's exactly what he says. He's like, he's a force of nature. He was just, it was almost supernatural, but he was a comedy legend too. He said that there's a time where Robin Williams needed work. So he was doing Mork and Mindy, and he had just stopped doing that. And there was a period where it was the Writers Guild went on strike or whatever, so there's like no work being done.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And so he was like, well, what are you going to do next? He's like, I don't know. I think I'm going to do like this Broadway thing or something like that, or this show, or something like that. And Robin was like, can I join? And Martin Short was like, absolutely. But he stayed at their guest house, or not their guest house. They owned some California house. Or rented or apartment or whatever, but he stayed in the guest bedroom, and he would come in at like 3 a.m. and get very little sleep and wake up at maybe early afternoon.
Yeah.
And he said that there's one day that he walked into his bedroom, and the one thing about Robin Williams, he was entirely respectful. He didn't, even though his life outside of that and stuff was a little questionable. Every time he was there or whatever he did when he was staying there, he was a total gentleman. He respected their rules, life, house, whatever. And there's one day that he walked in there and Robin Williams was staring out the window watching his kids play in the street. And he said that there was a sense of heavy, just somberness to him.
Yeah.
And he just said some things like, oh, it must be nice. It's like, what would you give to be able to do that? And that was like the most serious somberness thing. And that was the moment where I guess Martin Short said that you saw that there was a sadness, that there was a type of depression. And later on, obviously, Robin Williams died. You can go back to one of our old podcasts, talk about that. Yeah. But
Season 1.
he died basically of depression.
Yeah.
Because he could never get over depression. So the fact that this was the 70s and he was just starting off, and the drugs obviously didn't help, and the alcohol didn't help, and all that, but he basically was depressed his entire life.
Yeah.
And that was one of those things where he says, like, I mean, I saw it. I just, he's one of those things. What are you going to do about it? You can't do anything about it. You can't change somebody. It's like, even if I could, he's like, what would have I done?
There's that point you say, where is it my place?
Yeah.
Like, where is it my place to intervene and to try and do, obviously, like, there's, arguments to be made, but, I think that's probably the stopping point where you go, well, certain people, you go, well, is it my place to do it?
I think there's a fine line between knowing that somebody's on a destructive pattern or a self-destructive pattern and you know that, hey, maybe I can step in and try.
Right.
But essentially, you're not going to be able to save anybody until they want to change.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
I think Robin Williams is probably one of those people where he probably didn't know how bad it really was inside his own head, given everything else he was doing. I mean, obviously, I feel like he knew that there was a sadness, but did he really know what to do about it?
Right.
And a lot of people say comedy is one of those things that, you have bad things happen or whatever, and you put it out there.
Tragedy plus time equals comedy.
And essentially, I think that's kind of what the whole Robin Williams thing was. And Martin Short, he even uses that, like, to get in his backstory a little bit, he lost his parents, he lost a brother, kind of diving that just a little bit. But that was the same thing that therapists tried to tell him. He's like, oh, I get it now. You, or not, maybe not therapists, but people try to say, it's like, oh, it's just a cliche, a sad story behind every comedian. Martin's like, no, that's not what got me into comedy. I've been doing it since before that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just, it has nothing to do with it. So
yeah, it's one of those things. I think I don't think there's
there's no formula.
There's no formula, and I don't think there's necessarily a sad story that galvanizes someone into comedy. But
Absolutely not. Everyone
has their own share of trauma.
Yeah.
It's a matter of how they deal with it.
Yeah, everybody deals with it differently.
Yeah.
Yep. I know we've talked about that just on a personal level in our personal life, how we deal with some of the emotions and some of the shit that goes on in our life, and just people deal with it differently.
Exactly, yeah.
For anybody, the younger audience especially, who don't know who Martin Short is, why don't we bring it back and at least get a little bio about Martin Short.
Yeah, so he was born in Canada.
Yep, March 26, 1950 in Hamilton, Ontario. Ontario, Canada.
Okay. I'm trying to... I don't remember his parents' names or anything like that, but I know he went to college... trying to hold on 1 second here.
Well, he went to he was fascinated with medical stuff, medicine, like practicing med. He originally and started his first semester went to college to I think it was in Canada too to go in medical field, but
actually it says here he attended or graduated from McMaster University with a Bachelor of Arts degree in social work.
Mm-hmm. But that was later.
That's 1971. Yeah. So
that was But he originally wanted to, like, I think he took a first semester into going to try to become a doctor.
Oh.
Or at least get in the medical field.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
For sure.
I guess.
Just a bit of information I didn't get.
Yeah, it was all in his book.
Word. Well, I didn't get to his book. Sorry.
Oh, wow. I did. I can't remember his name, his mother's name either, or his father's name for the life of me. But I know that his one of his brothers, so at the age of 12, one of his older brothers named David, I think. David died in a car crash. Crash.
I've got his parents' names here. Hold on a second. Short was born in the youngest of 5 children of Olive Grace and Charles Patrick Short.
Charles, there it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Who was the VP of one of the largest steel manufacturing companies in Canada.
Stelco.
And he mentions how, like, even though that they weren't rich, but they were well off. Like, they didn't need to worry about things getting paid and money, and they had
Martin Short's dad was a Irish Catholic immigrant.
Yeah, actually, he came over here illegally, and then he got deported.
Oh.
Yep, and then he came back.
Yeah, it's right here. It says right here. He came into North America as a stowaway during the Irish War of Independence.
Yep, and then and then he came over here again, and I guess legally that second time around.
I would hope so.
And here's the other thing: is his uncle. So I think it was his uncle. So his father's brother had children, and so his cousin was England's, like, moved to England or whatever, and became one of the top political people in England that helped like change the economy and shit like that. And,
interesting.
yeah, became super borderline royalty, I guess, over there.
I suppose without being in the actual line of succession, probably.
Yeah, without actually being royalty. It's just like that's how high up he was. He did things in England, I guess. And
nice.
I guess that when he was in the TV show Merlin with Sam Neill, which is a great show.
He was, I can't remember the name, but he was basically Morgana.
He was a fairy. He was not a fairy. He was a.
He looked like a goblin, I think.
He looked like a fucking goblin, but he basically was a fae folk. He was a fairy type creature. And he stayed in the hotel. Oh no, I mean, sorry. He stayed at the bar that his family owned. So his aunt from over there owns this family bar that's been in there.
I think I heard some of this story when I would listen to an episode of Conan O'Brien Needs Friends. I think he tells us that's actually like one of the few episodes of that show or that podcast I'll listen to. Like, I don't find Conan O'Brien superbly funny, but him and Martin Short talking was very entertaining.
Apparently, Martin Short is a big fan of Conan.
They're
personally, like, as a person.
They're actual once again, we talked about Martin Short's friends with Conan O'Brien.
Yep.
Like,
the amount of friends that he makes is incredible.
Yeah.
Like, just like these big people that you go, well, who the fuck is Martin Short? But I know that guy, and I know that guy, and that woman, and that person.
Yeah.
But
for sure.
Martin Short again? You know?
Yeah.
It's sad. He gets lost in the crowd almost. But unless you know Martin Short, and then he's like, no. He came first.
For sure.
He'll always be.
I feel like Al Pacino and The Devil's Advocate when they go, oh, who am I? I'm a surprise.
Yeah.
I think that kind of applies to Martin Short.
I don't disagree.
In a less skeevy way than Al Pacino delivered it. But.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But then again, he's playing the devil, so.
Right.
But Martin, so he stayed at the bar, and he, like, I guess the house or whatever that his dad stayed in, so he stayed in the room that his dad grew up in, which is right above the bar, and he said it was a weird feeling, and he stayed there for 3 weeks while they were filming Merlin, which is a great series. I love that series. In fact, that was one of the characters that I always remembered.
Well, that's what you and I talked about. Like, one of the first things you always remember about Martin Short is him and Merlin.
Yeah. I mean, it's just because I really enjoyed that show.
Yeah.
Especially growing up in a house full of, D&D and fantasy books and stuff like that.
Sure.
The story of King Arthur and Merlin was not, anything new to me. And the fact that I was also a big fan of Sam Neill, given that I was a big fan of, like, In the Mouth of Madness and...
Event Horizon was a good one.
Yep. And then you had Jurassic Park, obviously, and those came before the show. So, like, I already knew these two people. Jungle, I think, even came out before the show. Or maybe it was after. It could have been after.
Yeah, I can tell you.
It could have been. But either way, my point is, he's great.
Yeah.
And the fact that he went back, that he's full Irish heritage. He was born in Canada, so he's Canadian.
Yeah. He's Canadian by association. He's actually Irish.
But his dad especially, and his book, he talks about his dad and some of that thing that he's like, well, where did I get these characters from? Or where did I get this certain personality from for his characters? Like, was it Jiminy Glick?
Jiminy Glick, yeah.
Glick, there it is. He says he got a lot of that from his father. Apparently his father was a very funny man, but super, like, he wouldn't eat with the family at dinner. He would sit on his own separate, next to the family. He would sit next to the family while they ate dinner, reading the newspaper and always having, like, a cocktail in hand. And every day he would have a cocktail, a drink in hand, and he would talk in this, like, very, like,
that's
kind of mentality. But he was super funny, very stone cold. Yeah, and also very, like, sarcastic. He was a man of sarcasm. Like, he said that some of his friends or whatever would come over and have long hair, and he's like, "Oh, may I get the shears for you?" or something like that.
Yeah.
It was like, "Oh, there's a sheep in the front doorway."
That's funny, the sarcasm thing. Like, what that episode of Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, like, he's talking about how Martin Short will, like, insult you.
Yeah.
But, like, it'll be such an offhanded thing. Like, he's doing it as, like, just sort of like a quirk of his. It's not really doing it on purpose. He describes it as
innate, like it's just natural.
He describes it as him doing something with one hand, and the insult just kind of comes off like the other hand doing something random.
It's like he's doing a backhanded compliment.
Yeah,
but
the example he used
really
was
insulting you twice.
The example he used was they were going to go to lunch, and so Conan went, "Do you want me to make the reservation?" And Martin just went, "No, thanks, I'll do it. I want to actually get a table."
Yeah, exactly. That's his comedy though, and that's exactly, he got that shit from his dad. That's what he says. He got that kind of shit from his dad, just growing up with it, and like he just said, his dad was a hilarious person, but. He had his things, his vices, and alcohol was one of them. Although he was never a physical man or anything like that, when he got some into him, he definitely could say some shit. He didn't hold back.
For sure.
And he thinks that kind of sense of Irish honesty, as he called it, was what helped him create some of the characters that were very popular and iconic, like Jiminy Glick.
Jiminy Glick, I think Ed Grimsley, is another one that was big for him.
Yeah, see, and that's just, I don't know his characters. I just know him from his movies because I've never really seen him in his.
I never saw him doing doing
his
doing the SCTV and SNL.
Yeah,
but, I mean, I know of Ed Grimsley because I think that I was reading they actually made a cartoon out of that character.
Really?
Yeah, he had like a season or two. But yeah, I didn't know his characters that well in that respect. I very much knew him from movies like Inner Space.
Yeah.
I think you and I talked about the fact that I love the fact that you know Inner Space because I feel like that's one of those movies that no one seems to remember.
Yeah. Well, Martin Short makes a point that he had his first couple, he had 4 films.
Yeah.
4 films. Pure Luck wasn't even one of them. He had 4, I think it should be a guess, but he had basically 4 films. His first big role or big hit film was Inner Space. That was the first big movie that he had.
Yeah, I believe that.
And then his second one was Captain Ron.
Yep.
And then he did Pure Luck, but then there was The Fugitive. Yep, with Nick Nolte.
Oh, 3 Fugitives.
Three Fugitives, yes.
I was like,
yes.
The
Three
Fugitive is Harrison Ford. That's why I was like, wait a minute.
Three Fugitives, yes.
Three Fugitives is a great movie,
It
by
is.
the way.
And with Nick Nolte. And then he had, what was the fucking other one I just had and I forgot. I'll probably get back to it in a minute. But
I just thought of Martin Short wearing the pantyhose on his head, trying to pull the pin on the grenade. In Three Fugitives, when he pulls it and then just rips the pantyhose.
Yes. And then it was, I think it was Clifford. Clifford was the other one.
Yeah, with Charles Grodin and I can't remember the female.
So the biggest thing about him was that his Inner Space didn't do well. It was a flop. Financially,
which is unfortunate. It's a great movie.
Oh yeah, well, and that's exactly what he said. Like, it was a great film. Even the director using the graphics were like state of the art at the time to get into the body and stuff like that. It was a fantastic film. It was also one of the most enjoyable films he had. And he said that Dennis Quaid was a very likable guy, and him and Meg Ryan they met on that set and started dating for a couple of years.
Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan?
Yeah.
I thought you were saying Martin Short and
No.
Meg Ryan. I was like, wait a minute.
But he talked very highly. I'm not a fan of Meg Ryan, but
she's
at
fine.
that time, she was a looker.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he said was like, she was hard not to kind of fall for. Like, she's sweet, she's attractive, she was funny, and she was good, whatever. But obviously, Dennis Quaid, being the macho,
being
man
the more
from
successful,
Texas,
being the more successful Quaid brother.
Yeah. Yes. At least a sane one.
Yeah. He's not living in Canada hiding out from fake assassins.
Yeah, he said that it flopped. It was a big financial flop, but it became an iconic film. And if you look at the reviews, it's a 4.5 star.
Yeah.
And it's been an iconic film. And he says that's the curse that he's had is all these films that he starred in that were, like that for his start of his career, they flopped. They didn't do well. They didn't receive well. Even Captain Rom was a failure. But it's an iconic film, and it's still 4.5 stars. Every film he's done has gotten like 4.5 stars. He's not done a bad film. It didn't resonate or didn't get the money back. Even given that, like, when they do showings and got like pre-showings to see how well it was doing with the audience,
the tests
and stuff. They said it did really well, but yet whatever it was, when it got into theaters, it flopped. And he said that some of that came down to, like Inner Space, it was made by Orion, who filed for bankruptcy, and so it was filmed in 1990, and then it didn't come out until whatever, or not Inner Space. It might have been like Captain Ron or Clifford or whatever. It was filmed maybe it was Clifford. It was filmed like 4 years prior before it was actually released.
Sure.
And yeah, Clifford was another one where like it didn't do well. And it's
so I remember Clifford, and I don't hate it, but at the same time,
I don't hate it either.
It's basically Martin Short doing Problem Child.
Yeah, but it was the original Problem Child.
Yeah, it's Charles Grodin is not as funny as John Ritter.
Yeah, no.
And Martin Short is playing a 10-year-old,
and he's 40.
Yeah,
he was 40 years old.
It's unnerving. It's Martin Short walking around on his knees.
But that's what makes it funny too.
True.
There's that comedy because he pulls it off very well. Like, you are almost believing that this is an adolescent child that you just want to fucking strangle to death.
Right.
You want to skin him alive and string him up and put him on a spike out in front of your door saying no children allowed because of this fucking character. He's the devil. And he says that in the film.
Well,
you're the devil.
Because of the fact that he starts the movie out like he's basically a priest in the beginning, talking to a young Ben Savage.
Yeah. Who, if anybody doesn't know who Ben Savage is, it's Fred Savage's brother, who also was Corey in Boy Meets World.
Right. Ben Savage was not Fred Savage. Fred Savage was from the one. Fred Savage was the Wonder Years. Ben Savage is Boy Meets World.
Yeah, but they did
do a crossover episode, or not crossover,
but they starred in or they guest appeared in each other's.
Was Ben in the Wonder Years?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I didn't watch the Wonder Years. I didn't like it.
Yeah, I didn't like that girl that was in Sidekicks. She bugged me.
Danica McKellar?
I don't know.
Her name is.
She's
super good at math. That's really all I got.
I also didn't like Patanga. Patanga? No.
Patanga.
What's her name?
Topanga.
There you go.
Like
Topanga.
Danielle Fishel.
Whatever the fuck her name. I didn't like her.
Yeah, well, apparently no one else did either, because she didn't do anything else.
Well, I didn't like her. Either way, moving on. What were we talking about? Clifford.
Clifford, yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, so Ben Savage was the boy
Yeah,
that
yeah.
the priest was talking to that played Martin Short as pretty much saying that Ben Savage was a problem child.
Right, he's getting into trouble, and Martin Short at that point in the beginning of the movie is an old priest who talks about how he was a capricious child. I think is probably how they describe him, but yeah. So and essentially Clifford is just problem child with like a less funny adult and an adult playing a child.
Yeah,
and the dynamics are. I could easily say that Charles Grodin is probably the real problem with that movie.
I thought he had some moments though. I especially when he takes him to Dinosaur Land.
I just think Charles Grodin
insanity.
in and of himself, like the chemistry between him and Martin Short, and just I don't think he's as funny a guy as like John Ritter. That's why I compared to Problem Child and how Problem Child was. Compared to John Ritter is good in the role he plays in Problem Child.
Yeah.
I don't think Charles Grodin fit as well.
I think you nailed it. It's the chemistry.
Yeah.
And if I think about it, coming back to the book, I think he does mention that there seemed to be a slight lack of chemistry in that movie. It kind of fell flat. It's not that it was bad people or bad whatever. I think you're right.
Sometimes you just don't gel.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It happens.
I agree with you. I think it's what it was. But Inner Space is one of those that was like super unique and super good. And it's hard to believe that it flopped because it was really well done. It's like a 2-hour film too.
Yeah.
But it's a super unique original film.
It's a unique idea. Yep. Like the way it's done is unique. Like everything about it is very entertaining.
And it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's very funny. Martin Short is very good in it. Him playing off of Dennis Quaid or playing off of Meg Ryan or whoever he's playing off. He doesn't
very
even have
to play off. He's funny alone. When he's by himself in that film, he's great.
Oh God, yes.
Like when he's like when he's dancing or whatever, and he gets drunk.
Dancing in Jack Quaid's apartment.
Yeah,
or Dennis Quaid, not Jack Quaid. We talked about him one day.
And when he was in when he's in the supermarket, right? So he had that previous dream about
when he's checking people out,
coming, and he just has a complete breakdown.
Get me
By the
some
way,
aspirin!
I don't know how recently you've seen that. I recently rewatched it just to keep updated because it's been a while. And the chick that's like he's like trying to go out with, who's like the slut of the store, is like, I basically slept with everybody but you.
Yep.
And that's what makes me attracted to you. And he's just like, fuck off, bitch. In the end of the film.
When he tells her at the end, no.
No, not gonna happen. She's like ringing shit up and she like puts eggs on top of a basket and just throws like a fucking watermelon or something right on top of the eggs. And I'm like, how do you not do something about this? But it's a funny movie. And
she had a great moment later on in that scene after he has this freak out and she comes in and he's like, oh, good, coffee. And she's like, it's down the hall.
Yes, yeah. And then the store manager goes, no smoking. She just puts it out in the coffee. Yep. Yeah. It's a great movie.
It's a wonderful movie.
And the other movie, Three Amigos was his first film. That's what it was.
Okay, yeah. There's the other Steve Martin movie I was trying to think of that he acted together with.
His big iconic thing. And he had said that when he did Three Amigos, because it was Chevy Chase.
Ned Niederlander.
It was Chevy Chase and Steve Martin, and he was super intimidated. He had met Steve Martin before. Mm-hmm. I think he even met Chevy Chase before. But like this is him. This is like his first featured film. Yeah. And he actually had a big role. And if anybody doesn't know about Three Amigos, it was like the 1920s, so it was the era of film. Mm-hmm. And they all, like Chevy Chase, Steve Martin.
It wasn't a silent film, though, was it?
No.
I don't think it was a silent film.
I think it was like 1920s, 1930s.
They have actual talking movies in the 20s?
Actually, I think they did.
Okay.
Possibly. Maybe. Talkies may have came out shortly after. My film history is a little...
I was like, you know more than I do, and I'm just
it's been like 4 years since I learned about that shit.
So they're basically they're three
actors.
Yeah, they're three actors who play the Three Amigos in movies.
Yeah.
Like, and they're essentially the They're characterized basically as like they're
heroes.
They're
like the Zorro, I guess.
There's Zorro and John Wayne and Clint Eastwood all kind of like jumbled into one weird concoction,
in
like
a
that.
Weird trio.
In that movie universe, they're the guys.
Yeah. Yep. And at least in the films.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is they end up going down to like Mexico because they think that they're
they get fired.
Is that what it is? They
get fired because they have to break into the studio to get their costumes to go down.
It's been a while since I've seen that one.
So they get fired, and then like they feel like they're down on their luck. But down in Mexico,
they thought they had a gig or something.
I had trouble explaining this part in my own brain. But in Mexico, apparently they don't understand that Hollywood is fake. So they see the movies of the Three Amigos.
Galaxy Quest concept.
Essentially. And then they write a telegram to the three Amigos asking for help. And the Three Amigos, the actors are so stupid
that they thought it was a gig.
They think it's a gig.
Yes.
And they show up and like everyone's like treating them like heroes or that they're to be feared because it's coinciding that like they're supposed to show up at the same time as these Germans, I think is who was supposed to show up to help the bad guys in Mexico.
Yep. Pretty much just a bunch of bandits. It was just a bunch of
bandits, and they had that one German guy who was like walking around in pilot gear, and then they had two other ones that showed up with fedoras for no reason.
Which is a French thing.
Yeah, it was weird.
That doesn't make sense.
Were German.
Especially that time. Yeah, especially that time. The French and German didn't get along.
Right, and so
it's because they lived next to each other.
And it's that classic thing where like they don't understand that they're actually supposed to be fighting these people. They think it's all an act.
Yeah.
And then one of them gets shot, and they're like, "Oh wait, this is real.
This is real." Yeah.
And then that's so it becomes a very trope movie at that point. Yeah. I think that kind of idea was done a number of times where like the misunderstanding of you're not who we think you are.
Yeah.
That trope has been done to death. It's still done to death, but I mean that was one that was done very well.
It was. I mean, it became an iconic film.
Yeah.
One thing that Martin Short was saying was he was super nervous, and so what he did was to get rid of the nerves is he created a character who was confident and balls of steel kind of thing, and that he wouldn't be nervous. So he'd walk in there and he would play the character of this confident balls of steel figure. So he didn't come off that way while also acting as an actor and acting as an actor in the film.
Oh, that's so many layers.
Yeah, there are at least 3 layers of acting that he's having to do for one part, one character.
What was that one line in Tropic Thunder? I'm the dude pretending to be a dude that's pretending to be another dude.
Yeah, that's exactly what he did. he was playing the
Jesus
dude,
Christ.
Dressed like the dude,
Yeah, that's right.
Whatever.
That's
exactly what he was doing, and he said
that's funny.
He said it. Well, apparently it worked.
Yeah,
he did success, and he was confident enough to be next to these icons, and that was his probably his first big role. I think is his first feature film. Then he goes and does Inner Space, which was his first lead role.
Yeah, and
then he goes and does Clifford and.
I don't know why, but I just thought of when they were sitting around the campfire, like, how do you like your bat? Oh, they're just like roasting bats over the fire.
Oh yeah.
How do you like your bat? Oh, can I have your wing? Chevy Chase is chewing through the wing.
Yeah. I will say though, like Captain Ron, I loved Captain Ron. I recently watched. I actually watched it 2 nights ago. I love Captain Ron. It is great. Kurt Russell, first of all,
was hilarious.
It was hilarious. And
wonderful in that movie.
And I'm pretty convinced that he's just a fucking con artist.
Oh yeah. Okay. So my single favorite line in that movie by Kurt Russell, not by Martin Short, but by Kurt Russell, when they're first trying to take off, and oh, we're gonna go right this way, and the daughter's bitching about something. She's like, oh, but it's gonna be so boring. He's like, oh, you know the island St. Croix, right? And she's like, yeah. He's like, well, we're going one right to the left. Ted's,
yeah. He's like, what's that island called? Ted's.
Yep. You've heard of St. Croix, right? Well, we're going right to the left. Ted's.
Yeah. It is. It's a great film.
It's a wonderful film.
I know that Kurt Russell, the only thing he had a problem with that film was the kid underage drinking.
Oh yeah.
If this tells you anything about Kurt Russell, apparently he's a man's man, and that's something that Martin Short says is he came on board and he's like a man's man. He's like a bro, basically. But yet he's
got morals though. It sounds like
he has such an ethic code that you don't see in his films. He's not afraid to do anything either. Like look at the Hateful Eight. Anybody who's seen the Hateful Eight, he bashes a woman's face on the table. Yeah. And like calls her a cunt, I think. So like there's not anything he won't really do, but he has apparently ethical morals within.
Well, there's a difference between being, the people he portrays and like,
It's true. But he was convinced that, well, it's good for the characters. It's the whole point of the character. I still love that. It's like, don't touch my beer. It's like, get your own beer.
Get your own.
It's a great movie. Captain Ron is probably one of my favorites that I have seen in a long time.
Watch out for pirates. Excuse me? Pirates, the Caribbean. Yeah. Been to Disney World one too many times, Captain Ron?
Yes. And then he was right. And then he rubbed it in his face. He's like... But essentially, the whole film is Martin Short's character is this practically an overworked... What does he do for a living? Is he like an architect? No, his wife is an architect. Or something like that.
One of them's an architect.
I think it's the wife, because she has like plans on the table. Yeah. And she's like doing modeling, or not doing like fixtures or whatever. Yeah, and I don't know what milk over the table.
Yeah, I don't remember what he does, but yeah, he's basically in the business world as well. Like he's, something high stress business, whatever.
He inherits a boat from his uncle.
There's a rundown, like just jalopy of a boat at this point,
like an old sailboat.
He basically has pictures of the boat.
Beautiful boat though, even when it's run down. Yeah. It's a beautiful boat.
Well, you can see I think he even says it in the movie. It's been a while since I watched it, but you can see what it was.
Yeah,
even in its dilapidated state, you can see what it was.
The one thing that threw me off about that film though was it was rated PG-13. Back in, like, was it the 80s that it came out?
No, early 90s.
I might as well look it up real quick. So 92.
Yeah.
And this is the second film that
Martin Short?
Martin Short was in that his name was Martin. His name was Martin.
Yeah.
No. There was a Martin in there. Clifford, his uncle's name is Martin.
Oh, okay.
And in this movie, he was Martin. I was like, Martin Harvey.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, wow, God, that must be weird. So
yeah.
But he I forgot what I was saying. Oh, nudity. There was nudity. They're in the shower in the boat and it fills up with water. And you see the wife's breasts, which aren't really very big by any means. I was like, that threw me off. I'm like, this is 1992?
Titty's a titty.
It's true. You see the nipples. They're there.
I think I always assumed that was the draw mark. Like it counted as nudity if you saw the nipple.
Yeah,
I always assumed. I think that's probably because I'm watching
angle and everything. And
I think I was watching Scrooge.
You see her butt too through the glass, but it's a very clear.
Interesting.
But either way, I was like, wow, there's nudity in this, and I had to look it up. I was like, this is an R rating. This is 92. The 80s you get away with some shit, but.
I always think of Scrooge when he's talking to the censor and she's like, well, there's a problem with the dancers. He's like, what's the problem? She's like, you can see your nipple. He's like, I want to see her nipple.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know. Captain Ron is probably my favorite. Should we list off some of the
people? My favorite scene in Captain Ron with Martin Short is when the flare goes off. Yeah. And he's running around trying to get rid of it. And he finally gets out the window and he's like, it's like, okay, everything's fine. And he's like, you think everything's okay for a second? And then he's like, are you there? Yeah. And you realize he's blinded himself.
Yep. And he runs into that coconut tree later on the beach. Yeah. I thought it was great. So one thing that I give Martin Short a lot of props for is there's a fine line between between like slapstick comedy.
Physical comedy versus slapstick. Yeah. Slapstick has a sense of
almost like a novelty or like an
exaggeration. Yes, it's overdone.
Like Naked Gun.
Naked Gun. It's perfect. The Three Stooges are slapstick.
There you go.
That's slapstick. Where when someone gets hit, they fall over.
Yeah. And, Dick Van Dyke made a whole entire TV show about it.
Pratt falls and stuff. Yeah. Yep. So, the Dick Van Dyke Show.
That's
actually, that's not. Dick Van Dyke's the character. Carl Reiner made the show.
But he was the actor.
But yeah, Dick Van Dyke was the actor.
And he was the one that I guess he basically did. I think I learned about this, but he basically started slapstick comedy. He realized that he wasn't that funny of a guy talking, so he had to do. But he was good at physically doing things, and he would go out of his way to physically do something to make people laugh.
Yeah, I believe it.
Unfortunately, Chevy Chase tried to do that too.
And he's just not as good at it.
He's not as good, and he overuses it.
Yes.
So something that Martin Short says is like the one thing that Chevy Chase does is he will run that joke down into the ground, and that was one of it. It was
I really think
physical whatever comedy.
I really think that Chevy Chase is one of those guys that we were getting off of Martin Short for a moment, but Chevy Chase is one of those comedians. Like I think he's funniest, not necessarily when he's in like a supremely physical like joke. Like I don't think slapstick is funny from him, but I think like when he gets himself into those awkward situations where like things aren't working as well as they should or the way they should. Yeah. Like I think of National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is exactly like when he's in the attic and he's watching the films and all of a sudden he just slams to the floor. Yep. That's where he shines.
Yeah. It's those situations.
Because it's his ability to still look as though either things are just completely normal. Like he's surprised, but at the same time he's kind of like, okay.
He accepts it. Of course, this is going to happen to me. This is my life.
Or he has those like moments of weird blind panic that really work well for him too, but like nothing super physical.
I agree. The vacation movies, I personally think are probably his best thing.
Yes.
And I agree with you. It has to do with not his physicality of him forcing the funniness as much as the natural situation that he is able to come off, or he can just go,
he's
of course.
He's basically he is a comedic, like a real life comedic version of what Martin Short's character is in Pure Luck. Like he's the guy that bad things happen to, and he makes the situation funny because of his reactions.
Yeah. Yep.
It's not. It doesn't have to be physical comedy that he incites.
Yep. So, just because you said that reminded me of the Three Fugitives. So it was a good movie, but he made a comment about Nick Nolte. And at this time, Nick Nolte was big into doing drugs and alcohol. And he didn't really want to change. And I guess Hepburn? Maybe it was Hepburn. I can't. I have to look at. I would have to remember some like classic star, like female star, was worked with Nick Nolte or something like that, and said that, hey, I was like, I could help you, do this. I can help you recover. And he's like, no, thank you. I appreciate it, but no, thank you. So as much as he didn't want to change, and he was, whatever, he was Nick Nolte doing all this stuff. Apparently, he was a pretty respectable guy to a point.
Yeah.
But he did. Martin Short said he was out to dinner. He saw Nick Nolte at a table, wherever, eating dinner, and he was getting just sloshed. And apparently, he was supposed to be sober. And Martin Short, knowing this, says like when the waiter came over, he's like, would you like a drink? Would you like to see the wine list? Whatever. He's like, no, I'll just have this Perrier water, whatever. Out of respect for Nick Nolte's sobriety. And then Nick Nolte's like, I'll take 2 7-7s or whatever.
Oh, sure.
He just started drinking vodka and 7-Up or whatever. Yeah. And he's like, next thing you know, it's 3, 4 later. And he's just shit-faced. Well, there goes his sobriety right out the window in one night. And he also mentions how he had sit across the table or something, and he had yelled. Martin Short had done a voice, an impression, which is something else that Martin Short's good at doing.
Yes. Yep.
And he had done an impression of Nick Nolte in that raspy, smoky voice, and said, Nick Nolte's an asshole, or whatever. I guess Nick Nolte just kind of turned around and said, I don't disagree.
I think he used that voice in an episode of Law and Order SVU that he was in.
Yeah.
Really,
he does it good.
It was so you don't see him right away, but like you hear the voice, and I didn't think it was Martin Short.
Yeah.
And then Martin Short shows up not using the voice.
He does an incredible job at doing Robin Williams too.
I believe it.
He did it in the book.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's his voices, his impersonations are great. But then again, that's also like him playing characters. He developed characters
Well, yeah, that was what he did early on, like for comedy, was doing characters.
He was doing it when he was like 12 years old. Like he had said that he's not like a big supernatural guy. Like he doesn't really believe in the supernatural or have anything like that. But he said that the morning that he was at camp, he was at some kind of camp or something like that. And the morning he woke up was the day that his brother David died. And he woke up and he said he just felt off. And I guess people kept asking him, was like, "Hey, what's wrong?" It's like, I don't know. I don't know. I just
Odd feeling.
feel blood. And he's never been like that. He's very cheery, very whatever.
Yeah.
Flamboyant, whimsical kind of kid.
Yeah.
And I think that he says that was the one time he's had to deal with supernatural kind of entity. Otherwise, he really never really had a divine belief or anything, even though he grew up that way. And so, like, he the older he got and stuff like that, I feel like he was doing all these characters and stuff like that in his room, and the older he got, he never strayed away from it. And where most people would, like most parents would probably be like, "Oh no, he's on drugs. Is he doing drugs? He might be in his room doing drugs. Why else would he be singing show tunes or whatever, 3 choruses
He's just
in a
out
row?"
there doing his characters.
Yeah, and essentially his parents were supportive, especially his mother.
His mom, it was, yeah.
And that really helped define him. Was not only did he not have a faith to believe on, he would mock it in the same aspect he was doing his characters, not in a deliberate way though. And it's because of his lack of belief, and I think it comes down to this stimulation of, or not stimulation, but it would stimulate his characters from the lack of faith that he had, given that his brother died, and yet that's the only thing that he's ever come close to having a divine feeling. He would stem from that and then create these characters that were like very outlandish. Does that make sense?
I think so.
I really don't know how else to explain that.
I think I get it. Maybe.
I've had a few beers.
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
So his characters have really become something that goes against what he's. It's always been the opposite of what he is.
Right. Well, yeah, because if they were anything like him, he wouldn't necessarily be playing a character.
Really, it wouldn't. Yeah, I suppose. I mean, but
but that makes sense to me. Like to say that any character I play is like a far cry from me as a person.
Yeah,
it has to be.
And that's where I think it stems from. Is like he isn't a faithful person, so he's very like. He's been considered Jewish. Apparently, people think he's Jewish, which is something he's considered. I'm not Jewish. I'm Canadian.
There's a vast difference.
And so, like, all these things, he has no relation with God. He has no attachment to, the mystery of life, I guess. And so he just has these, like, outlandish characters that are completely just bizarre, I guess. Really exaggerated. But they're fantastic. I don't know, man. Martin Short,
I haven't sat and watched much of his Jiminy Glick stuff, and I feel like I should go back and watch it.
I had a hard time with that. I remember when he came out in the early 2000s. I think it was in high school
something like that.
when I first stumbled upon him. And I didn't understand it. But then after reading his book, it was one of his most successful characters that he'd done.
Well, yeah, because the show ran for a couple seasons, I think.
I think so.
I think he's got at least one or two movies.
Too.
Yeah.
One for sure.
Yeah. I think there's
Jiminy
something
Glick
and La La Land or something.
Something like that. He really embraced that character.
Yeah.
And really made it outlandish for sure.
Oh,
because he would just hump, like he talked about it in his book where he was like, Ellen DeGeneres came on or whatever, and like she's gay, she's lesbian, but he like hopped over to the desk and just started humping her and like not toppled her over, and like she took it, she ran with it. And then there's also some other actors or whatever, he would do the same thing, and then he would like sit back and like light up a cigarette. So he's basically like a Chihuahua dog, like just a little horn dog, whatever.
That's funny.
Yeah, I don't know. What would you say is, to shift gears, what would you say is your biggest memory, or like your most likable memory within Martin Short of anything you've ever seen, whether it's film or just interviews or whatever it is that you've seen? What is it that, when you think of Martin Short, this is what clicks? This is the first thing that comes to mind.
So my first real initial thought of Martin Short, I guess, like if it right off the hip, I would either think of Inner Space or Three Fugitives. I remember watching Three Fugitives a lot when I was a kid, and I really liked the movie.
It's actually it's a very kind of sincere film too. It's basically about Martin Short has a daughter who's mute, and he can't afford to get the money to have surgery to help her.
It's not surgery. Like, she just doesn't talk.
She doesn't. So it's like therapy or what? Either way, he trying to raise money. Oh no, he was trying to give her away.
No, he's trying to get her back. She was in an orphanage. Like,
that's what it was. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
He was trying to get the money to get her back and then cross over into Canada.
That's what it was.
And then Nick Nolte is basically an ex-thief or bank robber,
bank robber
that is released from prison that day. He goes to the bank to deposit all the money he made in prison. The bigger joke is that the two cops that caught him give him a ride. They're like they meet him outside of the prison and they're giving him shit, and it's James Earl Jones is the first cop.
Oh god!
And so they're giving him shit, and he's like, "Well, what about it? Give me a ride." And like James Earl Jones is like, "A ride," and then they give him a ride. And I think it's like they're trying to goad him into just robbing another bank so they can just put him back in prison.
Yeah. And
they think, and they laugh it off and they go. And then Martin Short breaks in to rob the bank.
Yeah.
They get the call. Like, after it's James Earl Jones and his partner are sitting there eating burgers at a restaurant, however long away. And they're like, "Oh, you think you do it?" It's like, "No, I wouldn't be stupid enough to do it." And then they hear the radio saying there's a robbery at the bank they were just at. And he's like, and James Earl Jones says, like, "Son of a bitch." He throws the burger down and gets in the car.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie. But it is a sincere film because it's basically talking about a man who is desperate.
Yeah, it's very much like he's desperate. Nick Nolte just wanted to go straight, but he got pulled into this, and he's very upset about it. And then Nick Nolte ends up forming this weird bond with the daughter. And that's where like the weird interplay comes in, because like all of a sudden Nick Nolte, who has only cared about himself throughout most of the movie, starts to care about this child, and from there it becomes he's in with the other two trying to get to Canada.
Yep. I do remember when there's a scene in that film where Martin Short and the daughter's like sitting up in like this car or whatever. Yep. And Martin Short is talking to her and saying like, "I'm doing this for you," or whatever. It's going to be good. And then she like runs away. Yeah. And so like he goes chasing after her and he gets hit by a SWAT team van. Yeah. And just bam, and then that's where
flying. She gets taken by. She basically gets picked up, and this is how she ends up in an orphanage, because he's trying to keep her, basically with him. I think he's lost his job or something like that, or he's basically fallen on hard times. Yeah, and
he's desperate. He's desperate.
He's a desperate man, and but she gets picked up by the authorities, like by an old man who like starts talking to her, because he and Nick Nolte are in like the bushes watching this happen. And he's like, "I told her never to take candy from strangers."
I just thought it was funny that when he gets hit by the van by the SWAT team, right? He gets hit, he gets pushed back. All like 10 cops come out of the cars. Like, "Hey, guy, are you okay? Like, hey, we should take you to the hospital." And he's just like, "Oh, I'm okay, I'm okay." And he just bolts. Just runs. He just runs, and then he's like, "Wait, that was our guy." And like 2 of them go running, the rest of them go into the car. I'm like, that's. To me, that's comedy genius.
It's a very sweet film. It's funny. It's like I say, Nick Nolte is actually pretty funny in it.
He has his moments.
Has his moments at least. Like, Nick Nolte's not necessarily known for comedy.
Yeah, I really like him in Arthur, the remake about the.
Nick Nolte's in Arthur.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
The one with Russell Brand. So the remake.
I didn't even
He
watch
plays
the first
Jennifer Gardner's Gardner. Yeah, Jennifer Gardner's dad.
Oh, okay.
And he's like this construction contractor billionaire or whatever who's built like half the city, and like he just like shoots a nail. Like Arthur's like playing around with his fucking
nail gun,
and he's just like boo 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 boo, and then like behind a curtain of plastic, Nick Nolte comes out and he's just like pulling nails out of his shoulder and shit. He's like, "Oh, that's a special kind of nail gun you got there," and this and that. He's funny, but yeah, he has his moments.
I think the whole ending where they're in drag is pretty funny. Or Martin Short, I should say, is in drag.
He does it well.
He
He does it well.
That's it's a hysterical part of the whole movie, especially when Martin Short gets sick. He's just like trying to breathe. He's like, and then like the wind catches his wig and fucking pulls it off.
Yeah, I don't know. Martin Short. Martin Short is even before our time.
Oh yes.
Me and Aram, in our late or mid to late 30s, grew up with Martin Short. We know who he is, but he, I guess in my eyes, he's never really went away. He's just casually doing life, is what I consider. He's
always there.
Yeah, and something that he mentions in his book as well was that at first he was trying to determine. People kept telling him, was like, "What are you going to do when you don't have any work in the films? You're not getting any films." He's like, "Well, then I'm going to go do TV." It's like, "Well, what are you going to do when you don't have a TV?" "Well, then I'll go do theater."
Yeah,
and that's exactly what happened. Was like when he wasn't getting a movie deal or something like that, he was getting offers to do TV, and then when he wasn't doing movies or TV, he decided he was going to go do theater. Yeah. So he was always working consistently for many, and he's still doing it.
It's like the line from the Boondock Saints. It's like, we're kind of like 7-Eleven. We're not always doing business, but we're always open.
Yeah, he does whatever he does well.
Yep.
And like I said,
well enough to keep people hiring him.
Yeah. Well, and like I said in the beginning, he's like, the biggest issue he has is everybody loves him. No one's really talking about him.
Right.
So, if anything, I hope this episode just shines a little light on people.
At least to get somebody fucking talking about him. That'd be nice.
Because Martin Short is a guy who, whenever he dies,
it's going to be there are a number of comedies, a number of comedians that when they pass, the world will be a poorer place for it. Robin Williams was one of them.
Leslie Nielsen was one.
Living today, I believe John Cleese.
Yeah.
The world will be a much poorer place with John Cleese.
Even Eric Idle.
Most of the Pythons that are left, I mean, Michael Palin. Yeah, Michael Palin. I don't know why I had to stop for a minute. Michael Palin, Eric Idle. Any of the Pythons, I think the world will be just a poorer place for not having them in it. Martin Short is another one that when he goes, him and Steve Martin both,
Bill
when
Murray.
they go.
Fuck. Chevy Chase, I don't know. I
mean, Chevy Chase, I think, can just he's turning slowly into like some sort of like insect.
Yeah, I mentioned this before when you got here. I mentioned this, that after reading or listening to Martin Short's book, and then Joel McHale, and then just knowing a little bit about Chevy Chase, and then watching that film, the futile, and stupid gesture.
Yeah.
Chevy Chase is he's a piece of shit.
Right.
He's an asshole.
He's a guy that has more ego than he has right to.
Yeah. Yes. That's exactly it.
Not that he hasn't earned some ego, because I mean he's obviously successful.
Yeah, he's fine.
He's done a number of iconic movies, like we talk about the family or the vacation movies, Fletch, because he did one or two Fletch movies.
At least one for sure.
I think there's two.
Is there? I wasn't a big
Spies
fan
Like
of Fletch.
Us. I didn't
Spies
watch
Like Us was great. Dan Aykroyd.
Him and Dan Aykroyd. We talked about the fact that Dan Aykroyd's another one hard to work with, but for different reasons.
Yeah, Bill Murray. But either way, Martin Short is definitely one of those. He is in the circle of those people we're just not talking about, because he came into light in the 70s and then in the 80s and then up to the 90s. Like, there was a big gap where I guess you really didn't know anything about him, and that's probably the 80s.
Yeah, when he was probably doing SCTV and stuff like that.
Yeah, probably. And I know that he was one of the few people ever that was asked to come back on SNL. Lorne Michaels, when
I think he only did a year, didn't he?
He only did a year because he didn't like it.
Yeah.
He said, it's not for me. The stress is too much. It's like, I want to go back to doing something that didn't have the pressure where I had to be funny on demand. It's like, that's not how I work. So he didn't like it. He did say that he took that year because he was going to quit after 3 months. He did 3 months. He's like, I don't want to do this. I'm done. I don't want to do it. Yeah. Somebody convinced him. I think it was one of the directors, producers of the show, convinced him. Was like, hey, all right, I hear what you're saying, but give it to this and let's see how you do. And he did. And he's kind of glad. In retrospect, he wishes that he could do it longer, but it would have probably boosted his career more. But he says that it wasn't him. and he didn't like it.
I think that
As the Canadian in him, I guess. He uses the excuse that he's Canadian a lot.
I think that's really admirable, though, like, to be able to say, like, yes, I could make more money doing this longer. Like, yeah, it would have made him, like, you know, Adam Sandler level and stuff like that. Like, he probably would have had that level of success had he stuck around a couple more years.
But that's just it. He didn't ever do it for the money. Money was never an issue.
Right.
And I think that's what really sold it. Besides him saying that he's Canadian, he didn't need the money, so he never did anything for the money. He had a substantial amount of money already. Yeah. And
he does it because he likes it.
Yes.
And he wants to do it.
He wanted to do it because this is what he was built to do. Yeah. Exactly.
And I think that, like I say, I think whether or not he needed the money, I think to be able to say that, like, yes, that would have been a great boon to my career. Yeah, but I just didn't. I didn't want to do it. I didn't need to do it. Yeah. So I didn't do it. Yeah. I think there's something admirable about that.
I agree, and that, once again, it just tops on more reasons why Martin Short is a fantastic
why everyone
person.
should fucking love Martin Short.
Yeah. Like, he's funny at what he does. He's whimsical, musical. So he used to throw parties with, you know, like Steve Martin would come. Big names. He consistently would drop names when he mentioned this, but there's a bunch of big names.
Sure.
Every year he would do a Christmas party, and essentially somebody came up and one of the years and said that I think it was right after his wife died. So his wife Nancy, who apparently was a smoking hot babe, where everybody like was attracted to her, and he got her. And one of the things that she had told him early on in their marriage was that if you ever cheat on me, I'm not going to say anything during the day. I'm going to wait until you're sleeping, and then I'm going to bash you in the head with whatever. Fucking, that'd probably keep a man straight. Yeah. Either way, they would throw this party for Christmas, this annual party, and somebody said or came up and did a musical or the rewrote a Christmas song or whatever that says pretty much the only reason why that Martin Short throws these parties is so he can sing. Because that's all he loves to do is sing. Right. And it was I think it was right around the time his wife died, and he's like, well, if that's the case, then why do I have these lyrics in my pocket? And this is who he is. He's a musical guy, and he grew up loving like Frank Sinatra, and I guess one of the biggest moments of his life was when he got to hang out with Sammy Davis Jr. Yes. And he showed like his house that had a bunch of like celebrity memorabilias and stuff all over the wall. Oh, like the Wizard of Oz shoes, like the original Wizard of Oz. Yeah, the ruby slippers was like hanging out there. And
interesting.
And I don't know. It was like, I guess it was one of his icons. And when he was hanging out with him, he said like it was really weird to be there with an icon like that. Yeah. And I guess that Sammy wanted him to do an impersonation or something like that. And he's like, only if you sing me this song or whatever. And he did. So, funny. Yeah, his connections are bizarre. It's not bizarre. It's just a list. Yeah. It's just crazy on the people that he's been surrounded by and that like him just as much as he likes them.
Well, I mean, there's something to be said about the fact that sincerity will get you, many places.
It's true. He's just a likable guy.
I mean, he doesn't blow smoke to get ahead. Like, he may blow smoke just because he's being funny, but like, I don't think he blows smoke to like get himself ahead.
He might joke around saying he blows smoke while he gives himself head, but
right.
He's definitely made some jokes about that. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. It's like he always wants the attention, but he doesn't want to be an ass about it, but yet that's his entire spiel is like these characters who are just outlandishly assholes and no boundaries, and they're great. They're great. There's like a line, and he just happens to know how to cross that line without going, whoa, that's too far, man. Everybody's like, that was very, very funny.
He knows the line and he knows the limit.
Yeah. Unlike Chevy Chase, apparently.
He doesn't give a shit about either.
Nope. Do you have anything else you want to say about Martin Short? What would you say is your favorite film? I know I asked you, like, what's the one thing you think of, but what would you say is your favorite film? Because honestly, I can say right now, I I'm a huge fan of Captain Ron, but
Yeah.
I don't really know if it's him that made that film.
See,
so
and that's my
funny.
other issue is like, these films, some of them are great based on not even put on Martin Short's shoulders. Like it's actually carried on the shoulders of other people. Like Kurt Russell or Dennis Quaid. Like
I do think that his character in Father of the Bride, though,
yes,
is great.
We talked about Father of the Bride 1 and 2, and the fact of the matter is those movies, we don't find them that good.
No.
Other than Steve Martin and Martin Short interacting with each other.
Yes.
They're the only parts of that movie that are good.
And Steve Martin, to me especially, is fantastic because he's the wedding coordinator. So he's
Martin Short's the
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you said Steve Martin.
I mean, Martin Short. Oh my God. Yeah, Martin Short.
It's all happening.
Martin Short is the wedding coordinator, and he's the one that understands. He's basically the only one that can bridge the gap between Steve Martin not knowing anything about how to do wedding, doesn't understand what the fuck they're talking about, and Martin Short is, because he's the wedding coordinator, and he's that balance. Yeah. But he's so, like, eccentric and so flamboyant.
If you look, so basically, Steve Martin in the movie is playing a straight man to Martin Short's, so essentially, Steve Martin in that respect, Steve Martin's being Abbott to Martin Short's Costello.
Yeah. Yep.
Because he's basically letting Martin Short play off of him.
Yep.
And it's a wonderful dichotomy they have. Like, watching anything that they do together is very funny.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's the fact that Steve Martin is concerned about the money, and yet somehow Martin Short is getting him to spend money left and right on stuff he doesn't want to have to spend money on.
Yep.
And the breakdown that Steve Martin has in the first movie, where like he's just taking hot dog buns out of the bag, and like what are you doing? He's like, I don't need this many hot dog buns. I have 8 hot dogs. I don't need 12 hot dog buns. Why do you keep giving me 12 hot dog buns? And he's just pulling them out and just like stuffing them back on the shelf.
Yeah, that's a philosophical like conundrum that nobody's been able to figure out.
That's one of my favorite.
Why is there more hot dog buns than there are hot dogs?
That is one of my favorite things when people just go, "Oh, you have any questions?" I say, "Yes." Why do we always get 8 hot dogs to every 12 hot dog buns?
I don't understand.
I know in real life there's an economical aspect to it. You're just basically trying to get people to buy enough to even out.
Yeah, but still.
But yeah.
Make it even.
Right.
Satisfactory. Done. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, realistically, and I think Martin Short shines more in the second one than he did in the first one. He's got a lot more prominent role in the second one because I think they figured out that he was one of the saving graces of the movie.
Possibly. It's been very many years. It's been a long time since I've seen The Father of Bride because I just didn't care for him that much.
Right.
I might appreciate him a little bit more now that I'm older, but
Martin Short, like I say, he has a more prominent role in the second one, so like he's there more, and so he has a chance to do more stuff with the other actors, and he's very funny.
He's so good, though. He's
like
so good.
Doing the baby aerobics class with the 2 pregnant ladies is very funny. When he gives Steve Martin the black market like sleeping pills from Russia, he gives him 2, and he's like, "Oh, usually I take a half, and it's like I'm out for 2 days, but 2 full ones. I'll see you next week."
It's good, and it's fairly well written, to be honest.
It is. It's a very sweet movie.
It just doesn't pertain to us because we're 2 middle-aged men.
Yeah, I mean we're not in Steve Martin's shoes in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, I mean Eugene Levy's in the second one too, and
Eugene Levy is another one. It's the best friends. They went to college together.
Well, he did college. They did SCTV together. A lot of stuff. Yeah. I mean I don't think Martin Short and John Candy did anything together, but
yes, they did. But
what did they do? I'm trying to remember now.
I think they did a Saturday Night Live or something like that. They did some TV stuff.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, they were friends because John Candy said.
Well, they were on SCTV together too. Then I think.
Yeah, because John Candy came up and said that it's like, you have brass balls, my man.
Yeah.
And it was one of the things that John Candy, and when John Candy died, Steve Martin, God, why always fucking too many Martins?
Well, we'll get Martin Short out of the way, and then we'll take a couple weeks before we do Steve Martin.
Right. Martin Short says that it's still one of the things that he talks about the most is John Candy. So there's been there's a circle. There's becoming a big circle of group of people that we're going to talk about. So like our next guy is going to be John Carpenter.
Yep.
And oddly enough, that Steve Martin and Kurt Russell became
you did it again.
best Fucking A. Martin Short and fucking Kurt Russell. I need to take a breather.
We're gonna have to end this episode pretty quick here, otherwise we're gonna tail.
Martin Short and Kurt Russell became best friends after doing Captain Ron. So much that when Martin Short and his wife Nancy went up to Canada and bought like some property on this lake, that Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn at the time loved it so much that they decided to buy the property across from the lake and build a house, and that's where they reside still to this day. Right across, it's like their own little private lake, and they frequently get together.
So essentially, Kurt Russell could just yell across like, "Martin, how you doing?"
Yeah, kind of like in Cheaper by the Dozen too. I take it you haven't seen it.
It's been a long time. I'm trying to remember what the fuck you're talking about.
Well, that features
Steve Martin, not Martin Short.
Yeah, Steve Martin and Eugene Levy. So,
oh, okay.
Yep, they're both in that. So, but Kurt Russell is also best friends. Like they're really, really, really close with John Carpenter. Mm-hmm. And Martin Short in his book says that he went out to dinner with Kurt Russell, Goldie Hawn, John Carpenter, and his wife at the time. I think it was Donna or something like that. So there's becoming this weird circle trend of people that we're going to be talking about associated with each other.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So serendipitous.
Right. I mean, there's something to be said about certain aspects of your personality that kind of just attract.
It's true. That's
true.
true.
Like we just talked about, Kurt Russell is one of those guys. Seems like a really stand-up guy. Has kind of a moral code to him, and I think he's generally a sincere guy.
Yeah.
It certainly seems. I don't know a lot about Kurt Russell, but from what I can tell.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to do him.
Yeah. I think the fact that he's sincere and the fact that Martin Short is also very sincere, like I think they just sort of gravitate towards each other in that respect.
It's true. It's true. Like I think Steve Martin.
Steve Martin Short?
Oh my God. Martin Short basically mentions that Kurt Russell's like a man's man, and yet he's one of the nicest guys. He's a big sweetheart.
Yeah.
And that's why they got along so well. I didn't get to say what mine was, but every time I think of Martin Short, I think of Merlin. I think it's just because
we kind of referenced that earlier on in the
it's basically the one thing that really sticks to me is that although I instantly think of a multitude of things, I just loved that character that he played so well, because he basically was the good side of evil. Like he was doing this bad stuff. He was being the side of evil, but he didn't want to. It was forced by hand, and I don't know, he just did it so well. And playing what he was playing, which I can't remember what kind of creature it was. It was really,
I don't know either.
Really bizarre to see him in this makeup and stuff like that.
He really looked a lot like Rumpelstiltskin from Once Upon a Time.
Yeah, that's a good, yeah, he really did. But you got anything else you want to say?
No, I think I'm good.
All right.
I think we can wrap her up.
Let's wrap it up then. So, we talked about Martin Short, not Steve Martin.
Right.
Not at all. We talked a lot about him, but not an episode about Steve Martin.
Not as one of us would like you to think we were talking about.
I blame my beer. That's all I have to say. So,
I was going to try to come up with a retort to that, but I didn't have anything.
Well, this is Timothy Bennett.
This is Aram Banyan.
And we'll catch you later.
Thanks.
Peace.